When you look at the miracle of the American Revolution, a critical combination was God's timing plus the leaders chosen to carry it out. Teaching about the intense education and deep curiosity of our founding fathers is author Jenny Cody's passion.
They studied ancient civilizations, and I don't mean just like AP history, and dates and facts and stuff. They studied how governments worked. They studied ancient Rome, ancient Greece. They studied philosophy, how men thought.
Cody wrote The Voice, the Revolution, and the Key to better connect our younger generation with America's founders.
My life's purpose is to get kids excited about history and make them fall in love with it.
In this book, the author uses talking animals to help the future leaders when they're children. One is a young Benjamin Franklin reading in depth about ancient leaders' character, virtues, and vices.
Plutarch's Lives, Benjamin Franklin, 11 years old, that was his favorite book. Have you read Plutarch's Lives? I just read it to write this book, and it's pretty complicated.
Young George Washington wrote in longhand 110 principles put together by Jesuits about how to live right and be a gentleman.
What 12-year-old today do you think would take the time to have a journal and to handwrite out rules of civility and civil discourse? I mean, he wrote down these principles so he would learn them.
Colonial society at this time was pretty much based on the lessons and literature of Christianity.
Children were learning their ABCs based on Bible characters.
Today's public schools not only don't teach out of the Bible, they don't teach how important Christianity was to most of the founding fathers. Or they suggest founders like Washington and Thomas Jefferson were deists, believers in only a distant and uninvolved God.
Yet Washington stated after surviving a battle where his coat was punctured by numerous bullets and 2 horses were shot dead beneath him, "I was saved by the miraculous care of Providence that saved me beyond human expectation." Patrick Henry, the man who shouted, "Give me liberty or give me death," stated, "There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations." As a young man, Patrick Henry was right in the middle of the First Great Awakening and the battle for greater religious liberty in the colonies.
The war for religious freedom was happening under his own roof.
Henry's father and uncle were Anglicans in Virginia State Church.
However, his mother, Sarah, was a bit of a rebel, and she went with this new Great Awakening dissenter movement.
She would take her son to hear evangelists preach in this first national revival. The experience helped form him into the mighty orator eventually labeled the Voice of the Revolution. His voice for freedom and stand against the high taxes of the Stamp Act helped ignite the revolution.
A decade before we even declared independence, he was the first one to speak up against tyranny. That's when Sam Adams and the boys and the Sons of Liberty was like, look at these guys in Virginia. We need to be that bold. And so isn't it amazing how one voice speaking up for liberty against tyranny can change the world?
And he joined many bold leaders educated for just that moment in time.
They understood that liberty is precious because it had been oppressed over the centuries, and they studied it. And so because they studied what worked in history, they could smell a tyrant coming 3,000 miles away, and they were ready.
While Cody also points out their failures, like Patrick Henry owning slaves.
I'm showing his struggle with slavery, where he says it's a lamentable evil. I cannot justify it. I cannot believe I'm a Christian, yet I do this. There's no excuse.
But she finds it horrible that schools are shying away from teaching the great and good stories of America's first decades and its founders just because of their dark side.
To the point where I heard recently that some school curriculums are going to start teaching in 1866. Oh, let's just skip over the whole founding of our nation because it's too painful.
Cody holds patriot camps with kids and often asks what will happen if children don't learn their nation's history.
They said we'd lose our future. And I said, whose responsibility is it to keep telling the stories of our history? And you know what they said? It's ours. So if kids are willing to own it, let's just teach it to them.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.